Daí, galera do Boteco, hoje o Frank tá aqui de novo pra falar uma coisa muito legal, que é o show do Nirvana aqui em Montreal, no Foufounes Élétriques, uma casa de shows aqui que é clássica, até aberta até hoje em dia. E o que aconteceu? Cara, o Nirvana era underground em 91, era o segundo álbum dos caras. Os caras vieram aqui meio assim, ele vai falar porque ele foi no show. Ele vai falar o que aconteceu.
So, it's 1991. It's the fall of 1991, September. And I'm working in a heavy metal record store, Montreal's only heavy metal record store. It was called Rock on Stock. And it was the biggest independent record store in Montreal at the time. And the Nirvana record comes out, the second Nirvana record. So Nevermind, right? Comes out. And at first, it was not popular. It took many months for Smells Like Teen Spirit to become a big hit. So for all of that fall and the beginning of winter, from September to December, the album was out, but really only hardcore grunge fans were aware of it because they weren't really a big band yet. And so, but they start their tour, of course, and they come to Montreal in that fall, and they played the legendary venue, Foufounes Élétriques, where many, many other punk, metal, and other bands had played. Rock, hip-hop, reggae, ska, all of it. It was just a great venue. It was a dirty, disgusting, filthy place that stank.
It still.
It still is. But great bands you could see there. Sadly, Nirvana was not one of those great bands because they were terrible. They were terrible. So...
Wait. Are you saying that Nirvana was terrible?
They were absolutely terrible. Here's what happened. We got free tickets to the show at the record store where I was working. And we were playing the record all day long in the store. And we were trying to give tickets away to customers who came in to buy whatever. They weren't buying Nirvana. They were buying other things. But we had the record playing and, we were trying to promote the band. We were saying, we've got some free tickets for them tonight at Foufounes. Do you want to go? Nobody took any tickets. We were giving tickets away for Nirvana and nobody wanted them, right? So finally at the end of the day, we're closing the store and my manager says, you have to go to the show. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, I want to go home. I've been working all day. He's like, no, you got to go to the show. If you don't use these tickets, then they won't give us tickets to other shows for free.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you have to keep up, they have to prove that you're working for them, like they're promoting the shows for them. Otherwise, they won't give you anything. So I'm like, well, I'm just one person. So then I start calling around all my college friends, one by one, calling them all on the work phone. Hey, you got to come out to Foufounes tonight. And it was like a Monday night or something. It was like nobody wanted in winter. It's freezing cold in December. It's like a Monday night. Nobody wants to go anywhere. So I'm calling around all these friends. Nobody wants to go.
How much cold? Just so to guys.
Oh man, it was easily minus 10 Celsius outside. Finally, I get one of my friends. I wake him up. He's in bed already. I wake him up and I make him come to the show with me just so we could use at least 2 of the tickets. And so we get to the show and there's almost nobody there. There's maybe 20 people, sort of.
20 people?
Nah, maybe not even that many. There's sort of a few people just sort of wandering around like zombies before the band comes on. And the other annoying thing about it was that Foufounes is a great place when it's full of people and the atmosphere is really, people are excited to see a good band and it has this great ambiance. But when it's a band that's not popular playing it, nobody knows, it's just a shitty empty room that smells, right? So
that's true. It's kind of true. It's kind of sad, but true.
Right? It's depressing when it's not full, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the band comes on and they start playing, and my friend and I knew the record because I had been playing it. The problem is that they didn't sound anything like what the music that I heard live. It just sounded like a mess. It sounded like they weren't even all playing the same song at the same time. And so it was a lot like Guns N' Roses. That's why I felt about Guns N' Roses live, was that they just sounded like a mess. Like they were playing all messy, like you couldn't really tell what song was what. So they're playing like this, and it's because they were all high, of course. We didn't know that at the time, but they're really high. And so my friend and I are just looking at each other and looking at the band and looking at each other. And I'm like, are you enjoying this? And I'm like, no, this is terrible. And it was really too bad because the record sounded great. I loved that record. We had been playing it a lot in the store. I was playing it at home. I liked it. But live, they were so awful. And then at some point, they played for about an hour. And at some point, Kurt Cobain is he's so stoned. He's so high. And he just stops singing. And he's playing for a little while. And he's got his back to the audience. He's on this tiny little stage against the wall. And there's a chain link fence on the other side of the stage where you could, if you climb up there, you go to the DJ booth. So at some point, he's got his back to the audience. He's just strumming his guitar with whatever chord. And he's staring at a spot up on the wall for a really long time. And he's not moving. He's just doing that. And we're all looking at each other like, what's going on? And then he slings his guitar around his back. And he starts climbing the chain link fence. And he gets halfway up the fence. And he's just hanging there like this. And he won't come down. And other members of the band are trying to get him down. He won't come down. And then finally, the drummer flips over his drum kit and just walks off the stage. And that was the end of the show. Just like that. Just like that.
Whoa.
And that was the end of the show. And that was my Nirvana experience.
They play like 2 musics? How many songs?
No, they played for about an hour, which would have been enough time to play most of the new record, plus a few songs off the old record. So, you know, there was certainly enough time, but certainly, I'm guessing that the show ended a lot sooner than really they wanted to or anybody wanted to, or certainly the owners of Foufounes, I'm sure, would have liked them to play longer. But it was just a disastrous night. It was a disastrous night. And it became this legendary show because they when they came back, it took them a long time to come back to Montreal. Because remember, just like a couple of months after that show at Foufounes, their popularity exploded, and they were like playing major like hockey arenas all over the place. They became this huge phenomenon. But this was right before that, like 2 months before the huge success. And so later on, it became this legendary thing that people would like to say that they were at that show. Listen, I was in the room. There wasn't that many people there. So the number of people that I heard later on claim that they were at that show was way too many. It was, so I knew they were bullshit. And then I would egg them on, right? They'd say, "Oh yeah, I was at that show," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, how did you like it? Did you like the show?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, they were great." And I'm like, "No, they weren't." So I know you weren't there.
É isso aí, pessoal. O Frank tem muita história pra contar, cara. Essa é só uma delas. Essa do Nirvana tem uma do Metallica com Guns N' Roses, tem outra com o Ozzy Osbourne. Então fica ligado que na próxima tem mais. Então um grande abraço.